Television. It shapes the aspects of our daily lives in ways that few can imagine. The majority of America's population spends nearly 5 hours in front of a television screen per day. But what started the phenomenon that has consumed so much of our spare time? Is there any way that we can improve this seemingly perfect invention? The answer to these questions can be found within the questions themselves. Visio Mundi, Worldview. In order for us to understand how television works, we must first understand where it came from. In 1906, a boy named Philo T. Farnsworth was born on a farm in Utah. Farnsworth grew up without electricity or a telephone. When Farnsworth was 6 years old, he decided that he would grow up to be a great inventor like his heroes Alexander Graham Bell and Thomas Edison. As the years went by, Farnsworth started teaching himself about physics. He read any book, article, or magazine related to science that he could find. He borrowed library books often. He even taught himself several of Einstein's theories. Farnsworth became very interested in something called the electron, a subatomic particle that is found in most atoms and is a major carrier of electricity. Through his research, Farnsworth discovered the idea of television, attempting to transmit moving images from a camera to a screen. Mechanical television had already been invented. It used a spinning disc and a bright light to transmit images from one end of a wire to the other. Farnsworth knew that this kind of television would only catch shadows and flickers. Instead of creating better mechanical television, Farnsworth decided to invent the electronic one. Farnsworth was plowing a field on his farm when his moment of inspiration came to him. He looked down at the soil and saw all of the horizontal lines. He realized that his electronic television could take an image, break it down into horizontal lines, and reassemble the image on another screen. When he thought of this, he was only 14 years old. With time, Farnsworth's hobby became an obsession. He married Elma Gardner at the age of 20, and they set off for California soon after they were married. There were several centers for motion picture sciences in California, and if he lived there, Farnsworth would have easy access to them. 1 year after the first prototype was tested in California, everything was moved into a warehouse where it continued to develop. One day, a large group of reporters stopped by the warehouse. Farnsworth demonstrated his latest model to them. The model didn't work well at all, but it worked well enough to attract the attention of local newspapers. David Sarnoff, head of the RCA, or Radio Corporation of America, was keeping a quiet eye on Farnsworth and the development of his experimental electronic television. Once Sarnoff received word of Farnsworth television through the newspaper, he hired the head of television research in Westinghouse, Pittsburgh, to investigate. The day of the visit is unknown, but the year was 1930. He was at the laboratory for 3 days, and he saw everything. Confident in his new employee, Sarnoff gave the head of television research a $100,000 budget and 1 year to create a working electronic television. Despite the knowledge gained from the visit, the year came and went without any progress being made. Meanwhile, Farnsworth was constantly developing and redeveloping his electronic television models. Sarnoff was frustrated with the little amount of progress being made. He decided to see if he could buy Farnsworth and his company. The RCA made an offer of $100,000. The offer was quickly denied. Farnsworth and others could easily see that the potential of the electronic television was worth much more. Sarnoff was now enraged, and he decided he would get rid of Farnsworth by court. The RCA would send its lawyers to legally overturn as many of Farnsworth's patents as they could. This didn't do much, but it delayed Farnsworth, and it made it more difficult to introduce electronic television to the public. Meanwhile, Sarnoff was figuring out how to produce his own television. The RCA sponsored the World's Fair Television Pavilion in New York, and they began to stock the stores with new RCA model television sets. The publicity that led up to the event restored the RCA's former glory. As Sarnoff introduced the RCA's new electronic television model, Farnsworth faded into the background. Reporters marked that as the official birth of television, and word spread quickly. The RCA may have been the first to introduce electronic television to the public, and that was only possible because of the actions of a farm boy from Utah.